Before clocks measured time, before alarms decided when you woke, an entire day unfolded by firelight, footsteps, and fading sun. Tonight, you will live one full day in a medieval village. Not as a king, not as a knight, but as one of the ordinary people. History rarely remembers. Let the modern world grow quiet and step into a slower rhythm. Welcome to Go to Sleep, Historian. Tonight, we travel back to a time before clocks ruled the day, before alarms, schedules, and endless noise. In this story, we will spend a full day inside a medieval village. From the quiet moment before dawn, through shared work, shared meals, and shared rest, until night returns once more. There are no battles here, no kings or conquests, only ordinary lives, lived slowly, in rhythm with fire, land, and light. Get comfortable, let your breathing slow, and allow history to carry you gently into sleep. Before any bell is rung, before any voice calls the day into motion, there is a moment that belongs only to the light. It arrives quietly, seeping into the world rather than announcing itself. A pale, silver-gray glow slips through the thin gaps between wooden shutters. It touches the rough stone of the walls, the packed earth floor, the low beams darkened by years of smoke. It settles gently, as if careful not to wake anyone too suddenly. You are lying on a bed of straw, softened by wool and old linen. The smell of dried grass reaches faintly as you shift. Nearby, another body breathes in a slow, steady rhythm. Perhaps it is a spouse, a sibling, a child. In this small medieval home, privacy is a luxury few expect. Warmth is shared, space is shared. Sleep itself is communal. There is no alarm to shatter the night, no sharp sound demanding attention. Instead, consciousness returns gradually, like a tide creeping back to shore. Your eyes remain closed for a time, not out of reluctance, but because there is no reason to hurry. The day will unfold whether you rush toward it or not. Outside, a bird calls once, then again, not a song meant to impress, just a simple declaration of being alive. Somewhere farther off, a rooster enters, his voice rough with sleep. These sounds do not command, they merely inform. This is how mornings began for most of human history. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and old smoke. The hearth at the center of the room still holds a dull red glow beneath its ash. It never went completely dark. It rallied noise. Fire is too precious for that. One perhaps an elder, perhaps a light sleeper tended it during the night, feeding it small sticks, guarding its breath. Now it waits, patient, ready to be coaxed back into flame when needed. You shift slightly, feeling the stiffness in your limbs. Sleep on straw is not the same as sleep on feathered mattresses, but bodies learn. Muscles adapt, discomfort becomes familiar, and familiarity becomes comfort of its own kind. For a while, you simply lie there. This moment, suspended between night and day, is not considered wasted time. No one measures it. No one counts it. Thoughts drift in and out, unshaped and unheard. Dreams linger longer here, their edges soft, their meanings still open. In a world without written words, dreams are not easily dismissed. They may be stories. They may be memories rearranged. They may be nothing at all, but they are allowed to exist without explanation. A child stirs nearby, turning over, murmuring softly before falling still again. A hand adjusts a blanket. A quiet cough breaks the silence, then fades. These sounds are not disturbances. They are reassurance, proof that the small world gathered in this room has made it through another night. Nights, after all, are when the world feels largest. Even within the safety of village walls or forest edge homes, darkness carries uncertainty. Wolves howl in the distance. Wind moves through trees like something alive. The mind, unguarded by daylight, wanders more freely toward fear. That is why people sleep close together. Not for romance, not always for affection, but for certainty. For the quiet comfort of knowing you are not alone if something moves in the dark. But now, the dark is retreating. The pale light grows stronger, turning gray into blue into the soft gold of early morning. Shapes sharpen, The outline of a wooden chest becomes clear. The hanging herbs near the hearth sage. Time, maybe a bundle of dried onions take form again. The world returns, piece by piece, as it always does. Somewhere beyond the walls, the village is beginning to breathe. A door opens with a low creak. Bare feet step onto packed earth. A bucket is lifted from its hook. Water splashes faintly at the well. None of this is loud. None of it demands attention. These are the sounds of people easing themselves into the day, like swimmers testing cold water one careful step at a time. You sit up slowly, feeling the chill of the air against your skin. For a moment you pause there, neither fully awake nor fully resting. In this world such pauses are allowed, expected, even. The body is not a machine to be switched on. It is a living thing, and living things wake best when given time. There is no bell yet. Church bells will ring later, calling those who choose to attend morning prayers. The manna bell will sound when work must begin in earnest, but these are still hours away. The village does not begin with command. It begins with consent. You swing your legs over the side of the bed, feet finding the cool earth floor. The texture is familiar, grounding. You stretch your arms, slowly, deliberately, feeling tendons loosen, joints warm. Stretching is not exercise here. It is instinct, a conversation between body and gravity. Near the hearth, a woman kneels and gently stirs the embers. A few sparks rise, brief and bright, then disappear. She adds a sliver of wood, no thicker than her thumb. The fire responds immediately. A quiet crackle, a faint glow, growing stronger. Fire, like people, wakes best when not startled. No words are spoken yet. There will be plenty of time for talk later. Outside, mist clings to the ground. Fields wait, dark and damp, holding the promise of work not yet begun. Tools remain where they were, set down the evening before. Nothing has changed. Nothing needs to be decided right now. This is the part of the day that rarely survives in memory. Later, people will remember the harvest, the long walk to the forest, the argument by the well, the story told at night. But this quiet beginning, this shared, unmarked time slips away unnoticed. And yet, it shapes everything that follows, in a life governed by seasons rather than minutes. Mornings like this are the foundation of calm. They teach patience without instruction. They allow the mind to arrive gently, rather than being dragged. A faint warmth spreads from the hearth. Someone wraps a shawl tighter around their shoulders. Another rises and steps outside, not to work, but simply to look, to see what the sky is doing, to smell the air, to notice whether rain might come later. Knowledge begins here, too. Weather's not checked on paper. It is felt in bones, read in clouds, tasted on the tongue. These early moments of observation matter. They guide decisions made hours later. But for now, observation is unburdened by urgency. The world is awake, but not yet demanding. This is morning before obligation, morning before instruction. Morning before bells, and in this unclaimed hour, the medieval world rests in balance held between what was and what will be, breathing slowly, waiting for the day to truly begin. When you are ready, we will follow it. Before any bell is rung, before any voice calls the day into motion, there is a moment that belongs only to the light. It arrives quietly, seeping into the world rather than announcing itself. A pale, silver-gray glow slips through the thin gaps between wooden shutters. It touches the rough stone of the walls, the packed earth floor, the low beams darkened by years of smoke. It settles gently, as if careful not to wake anyone too suddenly. You are lying on a bed of straw, softened by wool and old linen. The smell of dried grass reaches faintly as you shift. Nearby, another body breathes in a slow, steady rhythm. Perhaps it is a spouse, a sibling, a child. In this small medieval home, privacy is a luxury few expect. Warmth is shared, space is shared. Sleep itself is communal. There is no alarm to shatter the night, no sharp sound demanding attention. Instead, consciousness returns gradually, like a tide creeping back to shore. Your eyes remain closed for a time, not out of reluctance, but because there is no reason to hurry. The day will unfold whether you rush toward it or not. Outside, a bird calls once. Then again, not a song meant to impress, just a simple declaration of being alive. Somewhere farther off, a rooster enters, his voice rough with sleep. These sounds do not command. They merely inform. This is how mornings began for most of human history. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and old smoke. The hearth at the center of the room still holds a dull red glow beneath its ash. It never went completely dark. It rallied doys. Fire is too precious for that. One perhaps an elder, perhaps a light sleeper tended it during the night, feeding it small sticks, guarding its breath. Now it waits, patient, ready to be coaxed back into flame when needed. You shift slightly, feeling the stiffness in your limbs. Sleep on straw is not the same as sleep on feathered mattresses, but bodies learn. Muscles adapt. Discomfort becomes familiar, and familiarity becomes comfort of its own kind. For a while, you simply lie there. This moment, suspended between night and day, is not considered wasted time. No one measures it. No one counts it. Thoughts drift in and out, unshaped and unheard. Dreams linger longer here, their edges soft, their meanings still open. In a world without written words, dreams are not easily dismissed. They may be stories. They may be memories rearranged. They may be nothing at all, but they are allowed to exist without explanation. A child stirs nearby, turning over, murmuring softly before falling still again. A hand adjusts a blanket. A quiet cough breaks the silence, then fades. These sounds are not disturbances. They are reassurance, proof that the small world gathered in this room has made it through another night. Nights, after all, are when the world feels largest. Even within the safety of village walls or forest edge homes, darkness carries uncertainty. Wolves howl in the distance. Wind moves through trees like something alive. The mind, unguarded by daylight, wanders more freely toward fear. That is why people sleep close together. Not for romance, not always for affection, but for certainty. For the quiet comfort of knowing you are not alone if something moves in the dark. But now, the dark is retreating. The pale light grows stronger, turning gray into blue, blue into the soft gold of early morning. Shapes sharpen. The outline of a wooden chest becomes clear. The hanging herbs near the hearth sage. Time, maybe a bundle of dried onions take form again. The world returns, piece by piece, as it always does. Somewhere beyond the walls, the village is beginning to breathe. A door opens with a low creak. Bare feet step onto packed earth. A bucket is lifted from its hook. Water splashes faintly at the well. None of this is loud. None of it demands attention. These are the sounds of people easing themselves into the day, like swimmers testing cold water one careful step at a time. You sit up slowly, feeling the chill of the air against your skin. For a moment you pause there, neither fully awake nor fully resting. In this world such pauses are allowed, expected, even. The body is not a machine to be switched on. It is a living thing, and living things wake best when given time. There is no bell yet. Church bells will ring later, calling those who choose to attend morning prayers. The manna bell will sound when work must begin in earnest, but these are still hours away. The village does not begin with command. It begins with consent. You swing your legs over the side of the bed, feet finding the cool earth floor. The texture is familiar, grounding. You stretch your arms, slowly, deliberately, feeling tendons loosen, joints warm. Stretching is not exercise here. It is instinct, a conversation between body and gravity. Near the hearth, a woman kneels and gently stirs the embers. A few sparks rise, brief and bright, then disappear. She adds a sliver of wood, no thicker than her thumb. The fire responds immediately. A quiet crackle, a faint glow, growing stronger. Fire, like people, wakes best when not startled. No words are spoken yet. There will be plenty of time for talk later. Outside, mist clings to the ground. Fields wait, dark and damp, holding the promise of work not yet begun. Tools remain where they were, set down the evening before. Nothing has changed. Nothing needs to be decided right now. This is the part of the day that rarely survives in memory. Later, people will remember the harvest, the long walk to the forest, the argument by the well, the story told at night. But this quiet beginning, this shared, unmarked time slips away unnoticed. And yet, it shapes everything that follows, in a life governed by seasons rather than minutes. Mornings like this are the foundation of calm. They teach patience without instruction. They allow the mind to arrive gently rather than being dragged. A faint warmth spreads from the hearth. Someone wraps a shawl tighter around their shoulders. Another rises and steps outside, not to work, but simply to look, to see what the sky is doing, to smell the air, to notice whether rain might come later. Knowledge begins here, too. Weather's not checked on paper. It is felt in bones, read in clouds, tasted on the tongue. These early moments of observation matter. They guide decisions made hours later. But for now, observation is unburdened by urgency. The world is awake, but not yet demanding. This is morning before obligation, morning before instruction. Morning before bells, and in this unclaimed hour, the medieval world rests in balance held between what was and what will be, breathing slowly, waiting for the day to truly begin. When you are ready, we will follow it. At the center of the home, the fire is awake before anyone else. It is never fully extinguished, not unless forced by rain, wind, or absence. Even then, its loss is felt immediately, like the sudden silence of a voice that has spoken all your life. Fire is not merely warmth here. It is continuity. It is memory made visible. The embers lie beneath a thin layer of ash, glowing faintly like sleeping eyes. With a careful hand, someone draws them closer together, coaxing breath into them. A sliver of wood is laid across their heat. Another follows. Slowly, patiently, the fire remembers itself. Flames rise, modest and controlled. There is no desire for spectacle. A fire that leaps to high wastes, fuel, and draws unwanted attention. This fire is fed like a living thing, small offerings, regular care. The hearth sits slightly below the level of the floor, ringed with stones blackened by decades of smoke. These stones have been touched by countless hands. Children have warmed cold fingers against them. Elders have leaned close, telling stories with voices softened by age. Meals have been prepared here, arguments quieted here, grief shared here. Fire has witnessed everything. In this medieval world, the hearth is not a place you visit. It is a place you orbit. Life bends toward it naturally, without thought. Tools are left nearby so they may be warmed before use. Wet clothes are hung within reach of its heat. Food waits at its edge, never too far from safety. Someone has been awake through the night. Sleep, here, is not a single unbroken stretch. People drift in and out, waking briefly, shifting positions, checking on children, listening. This pattern is older than houses, older than villages. It ensures that at no point is the fire entirely abandoned. At no point is the darkness left unwatched. The person who tended the embers may be an elder, their sleep already light and fragmented by age. Or it may be a young adult without children, someone whose turn it was simply understood, not assigned. There are no written rotations, no tallies kept. Responsibility moves through the group like breath taken in when needed, released when no longer required. In the quiet hours before dawn, the firekeeper does not work constantly. They sit, dozing lightly, waking whenever the fire sighs or shifts. They listen. The crack of a settling beam outside, the distant call of an animal, the soft breathing of the household. This vigilance is not fear-driven. It is habitual. It is the same watchfulness that once guarded cave mouths and forest camps. The walls may be wooden now, the roof thatched, but the night remains night. As morning comes, others draw closer to the hearth. Not yet speaking, a woman kneels to warm her hands, fingers spreading and closing like petals. A child curls beside her, still half asleep, seeking warmth before waking fully. The fire accepts them all without question. A kettle is set nearby, its contents from yesterday water, herbs, perhaps a bone left to lend its richness once more. Nothing is wasted. Heat itself is a resource, measured carefully, respected deeply. Outside, smoke lifts in thin, pale threads from other homes. Each hearth answers the others. Quiet signals rising into the morning air. The village does not wake as one. It wakes in small pockets of flame. Fire shapes time here. Without clocks, the day is marked by the fire's behavior. Its brightness tells you whether it is time to cook. Its heat tells you when hands are ready to work. Its fading warns. When evening approaches, in winter, it becomes the day itself, pulling people inward, compressing life into a smaller, warmer circle. The smell of smoke clings to everything here. Wool, skin, wood. It is the scent of survival. People carry it with them into fields and forests. It marks them as belonging to fire, to home. Children learn the rules early. Do not play too close. Do not reach without permission. Respect the heat. Fear is unnecessary, but care is essential. These lessons are not taught through scolding. They are learned through watching, through gentle correction, through seeing what happens when embers are mishandled. Fire teaches attention. As the hearth grows brighter, the room itself seems to wake. Shadows retreat from corners. Tools hanging on pegs catch the light. The texture of stone and wood becomes visible again. The fire does not merely warm bodies. It reveals the world. Someone adds a thicker log. Now, preparing the fire for the day ahead. It will need strength soon for boiling, for baking, for drying, for repair. But even now, there is no hurry. Fuel is chosen carefully. Hardwood for long burns. Softwood for quick heat. Each piece has its purpose. The knowledge of fire is not written anywhere. It lives in hands and habits, passed down quietly, without ceremony. The hearth also governs gathering. People sit near it naturally, drawn by warmth and light. This closeness encourages talk later, but for now it encourages presence. A glance exchanged. A shared silence. The simple comfort of bodies occupying the same space. In modern life, fire has been hidden away, reduced to switches and sealed boxers. But here, it is exposed, alive, demanding relationship. You cannot ignore it. You must respond to it, care for it, understand it, and in return, it offers constancy. In times of uncertainty, bad harvests, illness, loss of fire remains. It does not solve problems, but it provides a place where problems can be faced together. Around it, people speak more softly. Tempers cool. Decisions feel less heavy. As the morning deepens, the fire reaches a steady state, not roaring, not fading. This balance is intentional. A well-kept fire mirrors a well-kept life. Neither starved nor excessive. Sustained through attention rather than force. A child pokes at the ashes with a stick and is gently guided away. A hand closes around theirs, redirecting, not scolding. Learning continues in small moments like this, woven seamlessly into the fabric of the day. Soon, tasks will draw people outward, fields, animals, paths. But the fire will remain. Someone will stay near it. Someone always does. Because when evening returns, tired and quiet, it will be here waiting. The shared fire does not belong to one person. It belongs to everyone. And in its steady glow, the medieval world finds its center not in stone walls or distant authority, but in a simple circle of warmth that refuses to go dark. Time before it was counted, the day does not begin all at once. It stretches itself into being, slowly, the way a cat extends its limbs after sleep. No moment declares that morning has officially arrived. Instead, it is felt in the warmth of the fire, now steady and awake, in the light that has fully claimed the room, in the way bodies begin to move with purpose rather than habit. There is still no urgency. In T's world, time is not something that presses against the back of the mind. It does not demand to be managed or conquered. It flows, and people move within it like water around stones. You rise when you are ready. Some stand sooner, joints already warm from the hearth's heat. Others linger sitting on the edge of the bed, rubbing sleep from their eyes, listening. No one is judged for moving slowly. Slowness is expected. It is part of waking well. A wooden basin is carried inside from the yard, its surface catching the light. The water within is cold, drawn fresh from the well or stream. One by one, hands are dipped, faces splashed. The shock of cold is brief, sharpening rather than jarring. It wakes the skin before waking the mind. There is no mirror here. No careful inspection of faces. Appearances are practical, not scrutinized. Hair is tied back or left loose. Beards are smoothed with wet hands. Small tasks done simply, without self-consciousness. Clothing is pulled on in layers linen, closest to the skin. Wool above Italiano. Each piece is familiar, mended many times. Saped biusi. Nothing is chosen for fashion. Everything is chosen for function. And yet, there is a quiet beauty in garments worn soft by years of care. Shoes may wait by the door, or not. Bare feet are common, especially indoors. The earth floor is cool and firm, grounding. It reminds the body where it stands. Outside, the air is changed. The mist that clung to the ground at dawn is thinning, lifting as the sun climbs. The sky is shifted from pale gold to a clearer blue. Clouds move slowly, untroubled by schedules. Someone steps out to feel the air, breathing deeply, reading its weight. Will it stay dry? Will rain come later? These are questions answered by sensation, not forecast. Still, there is no rush to act on the answers. Morning, here, is a space rather than a point in time. People drift in and out of the home. A neighbor pauses at the door, exchanging a quiet greeting. A child runs briefly outside, then returns, cheeks flushed with cold. Animals stir nearby goats, bleating softly. A horse stamping. A dog stretching and shaking itself awake. Tasks begin to suggest themselves, but they are not yet claimed. Tools remain where they were left. Baskets wait empty. The day's work has shape, but its edges are soft. Nothing begins until the body and mind have arrived together. This unhurried beginning has consequences. When people move slowly into their day, they carry less tension with them. Movements are deliberate, words are fewer, but kinder. Mistakes are noticed early, before they become costly. There is time to adjust, to reconsider, in a life ruled by the sun, not the clock. Mornings are for alignment. A woman steps outside to shake out a blanket, dust rising briefly before settling. She hangs it where the sun can reach it. This is not a chore, checked off a list. It is simply the next right thing to do. Nearby, a man sharpens a blade with slow, even strokes. The sound is steady, soothing. He does not rush the process. A rushed blade slips. A careful one serves 4 years. Children wander between adults, observing. No one tells them to hurry. They learn the rhythm by living within it. They learn that work begins after waking fully, not before. Some sit quietly near the hearth, doing nothing that would be recognized as productive. They are not idle. They are thinking, remembering, planning. In this culture, thought is not separated from work. It is part of Italiano. The absence of urgency is not laziness. It is efficiency of a different kind, one that preserves energy for when it is truly needed. Fields demand strength. Forest paths require attention. Animals require patience. Wasting effort on haste serves no one. As the sun climbs higher, the light changes again. It becomes warmer, more direct. Shadows shorten. This, more than any bell, signals that the day is ready to begin in earnest. Still, people take a moment longer. Someone shares a small piece of bread, breaking it in half without ceremony. Another takes a sip of warmed water from the hearth. These small acts of nourishment are woven naturally into the morning, not isolated as a formal meal. Conversation begins, softly. Plans are spoken aloud, not written down. I will go to the lower field. I will check the nets. I will walk to the forest edge. These are not orders. They are statements of intention, offered to the group so needs can be balanced. If someone is tired, another adjusts. If weather threatens, plans shift. Flexibility is built into the system because rigidity would break it. There is a deep trust here in people, in patterns, in the land itself. Time is not something to be mastered. It is something to be listened to. The morning allows for this listening. It gives space for bodies to warm, for minds to clear, for the day to reveal itself gradually. There is no sense of falling behind, because there is nowhere to fall from. Eventually, movement increases. Baskets are lifted, cloaks are pulled on, tools are gathered. The village begins to lean outward, toward fields and paths and responsibilities. But even now, as work approaches, the calm of the morning lingers. It settles into muscles and breath, carried forward like a quiet blessing. And long after urgency has entered the world, this way of beginning a day will remind a memory of balance, of mornings that ask nothing more than presence. The bell will ring later. For now, the day is still kind. Eating by hunger, not by our food, does not announce itself with ceremony. There is no table set with precision, no signal that it is time to eat. Hunger arrives quietly, and when it does, it is answered just as quietly. This is not breakfast, as it will one day be named. It is simply the breaking of the night as fast, body as gentle request to be sustained again. Near the hearth, a pot waits where it was left the evening before. Its contents are humble but dependable. Grain soft by long cooking, perhaps oats or barley, thickened into putty. The surface has cooled and set slightly, but a few moments near the fire will loosen it again. Nothing is spoiled. Nothing is wasted. A woman lifts the lid and stirs slowly, breathing in the familiar scent. Food smells different when it is simple. There are no sharp spices, no sweetness meant to excite. The aroma is earthy, comforting, almost invisible unless you know it well, which, of course, everyone here does. Bread rests nearby, wrapped in cloth. It was baked. Dizygodens. Dark, made to last. When broken, it does not crumble easily. It resists slightly, as if reminding the hands of the labor it represents. The sowing, the harvesting, the grinding, the fire. Each loaf is the end of a long story. Eating happens where people stand or sit. Some remain near the hearth, others step outside, tearing bread with hands already dusted with earth. There are no plates for most, no personal portions carefully measured. A shared bowl, a shared pot, a shared understanding of fairness. Children are fed first, not by rule, but by instinct. A piece of bread is softened in warm liquid. A spoon is held patiently. No one rushes a child's hunger. Spills are accepted. Food on the floor is swept up later or given to animals. Nothing is shamed. This first nourishment of the day is modest. It is not meant to satisfy completely. It is meant to steady, to quiet the body enough that work can begin without discomfort. Larger meals will come later, when labor has earned them and the fire is fully ready. Some eat very little. Others eat more bodies. Differ. Needs change with age, weather, and health. No one comments. Hunger is private, and responding to it is not a moral act. It is simply care. As people eat, conversation remains sparse. Mouths are busy. Minds are still waking. Words will come later, when they are needed. Silence, here, is not awkward. It is comfortable, shared. A man dips bread into the pot, lifting it slowly, letting excess drip back. He chews thoughtfully, gaze unfocused. Already thinking ahead to the field he will walk to soon. A woman takes a sip of warmed water infused with herbs, perhaps mint, perhaps fenilchosen. Not for pleasure alone, but for digestion, for balance. Food, in this world, is medicine as much as sustenance. Knowledge of what to eat, when to eat it, and how much is not written down. It lives in memory and experience. Certain foods are avoided early in the day. Others are favored when the weather turns cold or damp. This understanding is subtle, practiced without comment. No one eats alone unless they choose to. Even when someone steps away from the group, they remain within sight. Within call, eating is a reminder of belonging. It reinforces the quiet truth that survival is shared. Outside, animals are fed in much the same way. Scraps are carried out. Grain is scattered. The rhythm of nourishment extends beyond humans. Life here is not sharply divided. People and animals exist in the same cycle of need and provision. The dog waits patiently near the door, tail thumping once against the wall when a crust is tossed its way. It eats quickly, then settles back down. Contempt. There is no fear of scarcity in this moment. Scarcity is real. Yes, winters are long, harvests uncertain, but morning food is not eaten with anxiety. Worry belongs to planning and preparation, not to eating itself. When people eat, they eat. As the pot empties, it is not scraped desperately. What remains will be saved, added to later meals, stretched as needed. The idea of fresh food is different here. Food is continuous, evolving, carried forward. Hands are wiped on cloth or wool. Fingers are licked without shame. Water is poured sparingly to rinse a spoon. Everything returns to its place with minimal movement. Eating ends as gently as it began. No signal marks its conclusion. People simply drift away, satisfied enough to move on. The body feels warmer now, steadier. The slight weakness of waking has passed. Strength is returning, not in a ruse, but like a slow tide. This way of eating shapes the day, because food is not confined to strict hours. Hunger is listened to rather than ignored. People eat when they need to, stop when they are ready. There is less overeating, less waiting, less discomfort. It also shapes relationships. Sharing food without ceremony removes hierarchy. There is no head of table, no seat of honor. Elders are respected, children cared for, but everyone eats from the same source. Equality is not declared, it is practiced. As the morning advances, some will take small bites, again another piece of bread, a handful of dried fruit. These are not considered meals. They are simply responses to need. Work will soon demand more energy, more focus. But for now, the body has been acknowledged. Its request has been heard. In the quiet satisfaction that follows, there is a sense of readiness. Hands reach for tools. Feet turn toward paths. The day, now fed and awake, begins to move outward into fields, forests, and shared labor. The fast has been broken, and the world, gently sustained, is ready to continue. When silence gives way to life, the village does not wake with a single sound. It stirs in layers, like earth warming under the sun. First, there are isolated movements, one door opening, one set of footsteps crossing packed ground. Then another still. Gradually, these separate moments begin to overlap, weaving together into something that feels like life returning. Smoke rises from several hearths now, pale threads curling upward before dissolving into the morning air. Each column marks a home, a family, a continuation. From above, if anyone were watching, the village would appear to breathe. Paths that were empty at dawn begin to carry quiet traffic. A woman walks toward the well with a bucket balanced against her hip. A boy trots behind her, still rubbing sleep from his eyes. Somewhere nearby, wood knocks gently against wood as someone adjusts a gate. Animals announce themselves more clearly now. Chickens scatter and regroup, scratching at the ground with urgent focus. A goat bleds, dissatisfied with the pace of the morning. A horse stamps and snorts, head lowered as its owner checks the straps of a worn halter. These sounds are not background noise, they are information. They tell the village what is happening, where attention is needed. People respond without discussion. A glance toward a restless animal, a nod to a neighbor already moving to help. Cooperation here is quiet and automatic, the result of long familiarity rather than formal agreement. As more doors open, faces appear, some young, some lined by years of weather and work. Greetings are exchanged, but they are brief. A raised and then a shared look. Words are saved for when they matter. The layout of the village is simple, shaped by necessity rather than design. Homes cluster near one another for warmth and safety. Paths curve naturally, worn into the earth by generations of feet. There are no straight lines where straight lines are not useful. At the center, a wider space. Opus perhaps, a common green, perhaps just a place where paths meet. This is where news will be shared later, where tools may be repaired together, where disputes might be settled. For now, it is mostly empty, holding the quiet promise of the day. Children begin to move more freely. They dart between adults, chasing one another, stopping abruptly to watch something that catches their interest. No one watches them constantly. They are known, recognized, expected. The village itself is their boundary. An elder steps outside and pauses, leaning slightly on a staff. They stand still for a long moment, looking around not out of confusion, but out of habit. Ayak morning, they take inventory. Who is present? Whoa is absent. What has changed? This awareness is shared by many, but expressed most clearly by those who have lived long enough to see patterns repeat. Someone notices that a roof has shifted slightly in the night. Another points out a fence post leaning more than it did yesterday. These small observations are noted, stored, to be addressed when time allows. The village survives not through grand plans, but through constant, quiet maintenance. As the sun rises higher, light reaches into spaces that were dark at dawn. The narrow gap between two homes brightens. The underside of a cart catches a warm glow. Details emerge, making the village feel fuller, more solid. Sounds grow more frequent. Metal rings softly as a tool is lifted and set down. Water splashes at the well. A voice calls out, not loudly, just enough to be heard asking for help, or offering Italiano. The air fills with movement, but not chaos. This is a place where people know where they belong. Each person has a sense of their role, not because it has been assigned, but because it has been learned through years of doing. Those who tend animals move toward pens and pastures. Those who work with would gather near stored tools. Those who will walk to the fields begin to collect baskets and sacks. No one commands the village into order. Order emerges naturally. The absence of strict authority does not mean disorder. It means trust in shared rhythms, in mutual dependence, in the understanding that survival requires cooperation. A traveler might mistake this quiet for inactivity, but beneath the calm surface, countless decisions are being made. Routes are chosen, tasks prioritized, energy conserved. This awakening is also social. People notice one another's moods. A hunched posture, a slower step, a child clinging more tightly than usual. These signs are read without comment, and allowances are made. Someone tired is given lighter work. Someone grieving is not pressed for conversation. Care is woven into the structure of the day, not separated from it. As the village fully wakes, its boundaries become clear. Beyond the last home, fields stretch outward, marked by low stone walls or hedges. Beyond them, forests rise, dark and dense. Paths lead away in several directions, each with its own purpose and history. These paths will soon carry people away from the village, but for now, they remain connected to it, anchored by sight, by sound, by memory. A child stands at the edge of the green, watching adults move with quiet competence. They do not yet understand the full weight of responsibility, but they are absorbing its shape. One day, they will wake and step into these same patterns, feeling them as natural as breathing. The village does not think of itself as separate from the world. It is a small knot in a much larger fabric shaped by seasons, weather, and land. Its awakening is not an event. It is a continuation. As tools are lifted and doors closed behind those leaving, the village reaches a steady hum, not loud, not rushed, but alive. A balance has been found between rest and effort, between solitude and community. The day is no longer waiting. It has begun to move. And with it, the people of the village step forward into work, chosen by skill, habit, and need carrying with them the quiet strength of a world that knows how to wake together. Labor without command, there is no moment when work officially begins. No voice rises above the others to give instruction. No list is unrolled. No authority stands apart to direct the flow of the day. And yet, as the village settles into its waking rhythm, people begin to move with intention, each turning toward what they know must be done. Work, here, is not assigned. It is recognized. A man reaches for his axe without being told. He has walked the woodland edge since he was young. He knows which trees are ready, which must be left to grow another season. His hands close around the familiar handle, polished smooth by years of use. This is not a task handed to him. It is a continuation of who he is. Nearby, a woman gathers thread and cloth, settling near the light of an open doorway. Her work is quieter, less visible from a distance, but no less essential. She mends what time and labor have worn thin, extending the life of garments that cannot be easily replaced. No one questions whether this is enough work. The village would falter without it. People drift toward their chosen efforts, like water finding its level. Those who know the fields walk together, discussing the soil, the angle of the sun, the weight of the air. Those who tend animals move with practiced ease, checking hooves, counting heads, reading behavior. Each person's knowledge has been earned through repetition, observation, and mistakes long past. There is pride here, but it is quiet. Skill is respected without being praised aloud. A well-set fence, a cleanly cut beam, a neatly spun thread, these speak for themselves. Words are unnecessary. Children follow at a distance, watching. Sometimes they help, carrying small loads or holding tools. Sometimes they are sent away gently, told to play or observe from afar. Learning is gradual, layered, shaped by readiness rather than age. No one expects mastery too soon. Work chosen this way is rarely resented. Because it aligns with ability and temperament, it brings a sense of belonging. Each person knows they contribute something unique, something needed. There is no competition for status. Survival leaves little room for comparison. When tasks overlap, cooperation emerges naturally. Two people lift a heavy beam together without comment. One pauses their own work to assist another, then returns without expecting thanks. Assistance is not a favor. It is an understanding that roles shift as needed. If someone is injured or ill, their work does not go undone. Alters ad gust, redistributing effort without debate. The community absorbs weakness, the way a woven cloth absorbs strain by spreading it out. This system is not perfect. Mistakes happen. Some work is harder than expected. Some days bring frustration. But because labor is chosen rather than imposed, there is room for adaptation. A person overwhelmed can step back. Another can step forward. The absence of rigid assignment allows for resilience. Time is not divided into hours of labor and hours of rest. Work flows in cycles. Effort rises and falls with energy, weather, and need. People pause when necessary, not because they are told to, but because their bodies insist. A man rests on a low wall, wiping sweat from his brow, watching clouds move overhead. This is not idleness. It is recovery. He will return to his task stronger for it. Women work beside men, elders beside the young, each according to capacity. Strength is valued, but so is precision. Patience matters as much as force. There is no sharp divide between important and unimportant work. Fetching water, gathering fuel, repairing tools, these are not secondary tasks. They are foundational. Without them, nothing else continues. This understanding shapes attitudes deeply. No one is above any task. Elders may advise more than they lift, but they will still stoop if needed. Children may play, but they also learn responsibility through small, real contributions. Work also creates quiet companionship. People labor side by side, sharing space without constant conversation. Words are saved for when they add something. Silence, broken only by the sounds of effort, becomes a shared language. In these moments, relationships deepen without drama. The rhythm of chosen work brings a sense of autonomy rare in later ages. People feel ownership over their time and effort. They see the direct results of their labor, woods stacked, fields tended, tools repaired. This visibility strengthens purpose. When work ends for the day, it ends naturally when light fades. When bodies tire, when needs have been met, there is no bell to signal completion. Satisfaction itself marks the boundary. As the village spreads out into its various tasks, it remains connected by sight, by sound, by the knowledge that everyone is moving in the same direction, even if their paths differ. This is labor as it once was for most of humanity, not abstracted, not managed, not divided into shifts, but integrated into life itself. Work is not something you go to. It is something you do, because it needs doing, and because you are able. And in that quiet understanding, the day finds its momentum. Gathering as wisdom, not all work moves inward toward fields or outward toward tools. Some of it moves sideways along hedgerows, through forest edges. Beside streams and rocky paths where the land offers what it will, if approached with patience and respect, these are the paths of the knowledge walkers. They set out in small groups or alone, baskets over their arms, knives at their belts, eyes already adjusting to the subtleties of green and shadow. Often, they are women, though not always. Elders walk these paths too, and sometimes children accompany them, quiet and attentive. This work is not heavy, but it is demanding in its own way. It requires memory of seasons, of places, of what grew where and when. It requires restraint, knowing when not to take, when to leave something untouched so it may return next year. It requires humility, the understanding that the land is not owned in the way houses or tools are owned. The knowledge walkers move slowly. They do not rush, because rushing makes you blind. Leaves are examined, turned gently between fingers. The soil is pressed lightly, testing moisture. A plant is smelled, not who's seen. The senses are engaged fully. As they must be. Here, knowledge is not written. There are no books to consult, no diagrams to compare. Everything that is known has been learned through years of walking these same paths, guided by those who came before. This wisdom is passed in fragments through stories told while walking, through warnings given softly, through demonstrations repeated until they are absorbed. Not this one yet. See how the leaf curls. Feel how firm the stem is. These are not lessons announced as such. They are woven into movement, into shared experience. A woman kneels beside a patch of low plants, brushing aside taller growth to reveal what lies beneath. She points, not speaking, allowing the others to see for themselves. When she finally plucks a leaf, it is done cleanly, with care. The plant is left mostly intact. This balanced staking, without destroying the heart of the work. Baskets fill slowly. A handful of herbs here. Rootere. Berries gathered sparingly, leaving enough for animals and for the plant to continue. There is no fear of missing out. The land will offer again, in its own time. The forest edge feels alive with quiet attention. Birds watch from branches. Insects move through grasses. The walkers are not intruders. They are part of the pattern, recognized by the land through familiarity. Some plants are gathered for food, others for medicine. The distinction is fluid. Food heals, medicine nourishes. A leaf might soothe the stomach one day and flavor a stew the next. Each choice is intentional. Certain plants are avoided in the morning, saved for later in the day. Others are taken early, when their strength is greatest. This knowledge is subtle, built on observation rather than rule. Children learn by carrying small baskets. By being trusted with simple tasks, they are corrected gently, never shamed. Mistakes become lessons remembered for life. As the walkers move deeper along the path, conversation ebbs and flows. Sometimes stories are told of past seasons, of years when the harvest failed, of moments when a plant saved a life. Other times, there is silence, broken only by the sound of footsteps and birdsong. Silence, here, is not emptiness. It is listening. The land speaks quietly, through changes in color, texture, smell. Those who rush past miss its language. Those who walk slowly learn to understand it. At a stream, the group pauses. Water is tasted, checked. Stones are turned, revealing what hides beneath. Sometimes small creatures are gathered. Sometimes they are left undisturbed. Decisions are made based on need, not desire. This work is often underestimated by those who do not do it. It leaves no visible mark like a plowed field or a felled tree. And yet, without it, illness would spread. Hunger would deepen. Meals would lose their balance. The knowledge walkers are guardians of an invisible infrastructure. They know which bark eases fever, which root numbs pain, which leaf helps wounds close. They know what to avoid as well, what sickens, what burns, what kills. This knowledge is protective, life-preserving. As baskets grow heavier, the group turns back toward the village. The return path is unhurried. There is no sense of completion, only continuation. What has been gathered will be shared, dried, stored, used carefully. Nothing gathered is claimed as personal property. It belongs to the household, the village, the future. At the edge of the village, the walkers are greeted without ceremony. Their presence is expected, their contribution understood. Baskets are set down near the hearth, or in shaded places. Herbs are hung, roots are washed. Knowledge moves from forest to home without interruption. The walkers themselves blend back into the day, taking up other tasks or resting briefly. Their work does not define them entirely, but it anchors them deeply. They carry the memory of the land within them, and because of that, the village survives not just through strength or labor, but through understanding earned step by step, leaf by leaf, season by season. Labor without heroics, as the knowledge walkers return with baskets and quiet certainty. Others move farther outward, following paths that lead away from the village and into open land or deep shade. These paths are older than memory. They have been walked by fathers and mothers, by grandparents and great-grandparents, their footprints pressed into the earth until the ground itself remembers the way. The men who take them this morning do so without ceremony, tools balanced on shoulders, thoughts already tuned to the work ahead. There is no sense of conquest here. The fields and woods are not enemies to be mastered, nor prizes to be claimed. They are partners in survival, sometimes generous, sometimes stubborn, always deserving of attention. Into fields, the work is steady and methodical. Soil is turned where needed, not endlessly, not aggressively. Hands test its texture, crumble it between fingers. Too dry, and seeds will wait. Too wet, and roots will rot. Decisions are made based on feel rather than rule. Men work alongside women here too, when strength and skill align. Bodies bend, straighten, bend again. The rhythm is slow enough to be sustainable, fast enough to make progress. No one pushes to exhaustion. Exhaustion is dangerous. It leads to mistakes, injuries, wasted energy. In a world without surplus labor, a single injury can ripple outward, affecting many. So work is measured, careful. In the woods, labor changes its tone. The light is dimmer, filtered through leaves. Sounds are muffled. Movements are more cautious. Axes are swung deliberately, with attention to grain and angle. A poorly placed strike and glance can twist, can injure. Trees are not taken indiscriminately. Those chosen are often already marked damaged by storms, crowded by others, nearing the end of their usefulness. Cutting a tree is not celebrated. It is accepted as necessary and done with respect. When a tree falls, it does so with a sound that carries. Birds scatter. The ground trembles slightly. Those nearby pause, listening, acknowledging the moment. The wood will warm homes, build tools, repair roofs. Its life continues in another form. Hunting, when it happens, is quiet and restrained. There are no grand chases, no displays of dominance. Most days, hunting means checking traps, moving carefully through known paths, reading signs left behind, broken twigs, disturbed soil, faint tracks. Animals are taken when needed, not for sport. When one is caught, there is a moment of stillness, a recognition of exchange. Meat will feed many, bones will be used, hides will be cured. Nothing is wasted. Heroics have no place here. Strength is valued, yes, but restraint more so. Patience, observation, and consistency keep people alive far longer than bravado ever could. Men speak little as they work. Conversation would break focus, disrupt rhythm. Instead, communication happens through gesture, through shared understanding. A raised hand signals pause. A glance conveys agreement. Silence, again, becomes a form of cooperation. As the sun climbs higher, sweat darkens fabric, muscles warm, then tire. Breaks are taken without apology. A man leans on his tool, drinks from a small flask, eats a piece of bread saved from earlier. These pauses are not seen as weakness. They are part of the work. In the distance, the village remains Visabella. Cluster of roofs, a hint of smoke. This sight anchors the labor, reminding those who work why they do so. Everything gathered, grown, or cut will return there, transformed into warmth, food, shelter. The land responds to attention. Fields show signs of growth. Woods offer paths of least resistance. Over time, those who work these places learn to read subtle acoustic plants, lean the sound of wind through branches, the behavior of animals before weather changes. This relationship is built slowly, through repetition. Men who walk these paths age visibly. Their bodies carry the marks of labor-calloused hands, scarred skin, weathered faces. These marks are not hidden. They are recognized as evidence of contribution. Elders no longer take the heaviest loads, but they walk with the group, advising, pointing out details younger eyes might miss. Their value shifts, but does not diminish. As the morning advances toward midday, work reaches a natural pause. Baskets are filled to a reasonable weight. Wood is stacked where it can be collected later. Fields are left at a point that makes sense, not at some arbitrary line. This sense of enough is crucial. Taking too much today risks scarcity tomorrow. Doing too much now risks exhaustion later. Balance is not a concept discussed openly. It is felt, practiced, embodied. When the men turn back toward the village, they do so without triumph or disappointment. The work has been done as it needed to be done. That is satisfaction enough. They carry with them the smell of earth, of sap, of sweat. These scents will mix with smoke and food and life as they re-enter the shared space of the village. Provision, here, is quiet. It does not seek praise. It does not announce itself loudly. It simply continues, day after day, shaped by necessity and respect. And as the sun reaches its highest point, the village prepares, without signal, for the long pause of midday. Making what does not yet exist, not all labor bends toward the land. Some work turns inward, toward benches worn smooth by years of use, toward tools shaped by hand and memory. This is the realm of craft where raw materials are transformed into objects that will carry daily life forward. Here, making is not separate from being. A person is known by what they can shape, repair, or maintain, not as a title, but as a quiet truth. The one who works with iron, the one who knows wood grain like a language, the one whose hands coax thread into cloth. These identities are not chosen lightly. They emerge over time, through patience, repetition, and a willingness to fail. In a shaded corner of the village, the blacksmith prepares the forge. The fire here is different from the hearth's warmth. It is focused, intense, demanding. Bellows breathe steadily, feeding flame until iron glows a dull red, 10 brighter than nearly white. The sound of hammer on metal rings out not harshly, but with rhythm. Each strike is measured. Too hard, and the metal cracks. Too soft, and it resists. The smith reads the iron's response, adjusting force and angle instinctively. This conversation between human and material has been practiced for years, until it feels less like control and more like cooperation. Nearby, tools wait their turn plow blades dulled by stone, nails bent and reused, hinges that need straightening. Nothing is discarded without thought. Iron is precious. Skill makes it last. Elsewhere, wood is shaped. A carpenter works slowly, running fingers along the grain, listening to how the wood sounds under the blade. Knots are worked around, not fought. A beam is trimmed to fit a space exactly, because excess cannot be wasted. The smell of fresh shavings fills the air, sharp and clean. These curls will be gathered later, used to start fires or bed animals. Craft produces no true waste. Inside, elm thread moves through fingers with practiced ease. Spinning wheels hum softly. Wool is drawn out, twisted, wound. This work is quiet, meditative. The spinner's attention is complete, but not tense. Hands know what to do, leaving the mind free to wander. Cloth is life here. It keeps bodies warm, protects skin, carries children, wraps the dead. Its making is slow, deliberate, and deeply valued. A poorly spun thread weakens everything that follows. Precision matters. Craft is learned through watching long before doing. Children sit nearby, absorbing movement, rhythm, decision. They are given small tasks when ready sorting, holding, winding. Mistakes are expected. The material itself teaches what words cannot. Over time, hands learn to anticipate resistance, to feel when something is right. This learning is embodied. There are no instructions written down. Knowledge lives in muscle memory, in habits passed from one set of hands to another. Losing a craftsperson means losing a library. That is why elders are treasured here. They may no longer shape iron or lift heavy beams, but they guide, correct, remember. They know why something is done a certain way, and when it is safe to change. Craft also anchors time. While fieldwork shifts with seasons, craft continues steadily. Tools need repair. Your clothes wear thin, regardless of harvest. This constancy provides stability when weather or crops fail. Those who craft are not elevated above others, but they are relied upon deeply. Their absence would be felt immediately. There is pride in this reliance, but not arrogance. Craftspersons understand that their work serves the whole. A well-made tool saves energy. A properly mended garment prevents illness. Small details have large consequences. As the day advances, crafted objects move outward. A repaired plow blade is carried to the fields. A new handle fits perfectly into an old tool. A length of cloth is folded carefully, set aside for future use. Each item carries the mark of its maker, not a signature, but a style, a way of joining, a curve, a finish. Those who know can recognize these marks. At a glance, this recognition creates continuity. A tool made by a parent may be used by a child years later. Craft extends life across generations, binding people through objects that endure. As midday approaches, craft pauses naturally. Hands relax. Fires are banked. Tools are set down where they can be found again easily. There is no anxiety about stopping. Work will resume when bodies are ready. Craft teaches patience. Nothing is rushed, because rushing ruins the work. This patience seeps into other parts of life, shaping how people speak, how they decide, how they endure hardship. In a world without abundance, making something well is an act of care. And through that care, people define themselves not by what they own, but by what they can bring into being. Education without schools, children are everywhere in the village, and yet they are rarely in the way. They move through spaces like water, slipping between adults, settling where something interesting is happening, drifting off when their attention fades. No bell calls them to gather. No lesson announces itself, and still, learning happens constantly. This is education without walls. From the moment they can walk, children watch. They watch hands more than faces. They notice how tools are held, how bread is broken, how a fire is fed. Their minds are sharp, collecting patterns long before they understand their meaning. No one lectures them on how life works. Instead, life unfolds in front of them, and they absorb it through repetition and imitation. A child lifts a small stick and mimics the careful motion of chopping. Another wraps cloth around a doll the way they've seen a baby wrapped. These are not games, they are rehearsals. Adults are aware of these watching eyes. They move deliberately when children are near, knowing that habits good or bad will be copied. Correction is gentle. A hand is guided. A movement is slowed. Words are few. Like this is often enough. Children are given real responsibility early, but in small, manageable ways. Carrying water that sloshes, but does not spill. Sorting beans, watching a younger child for a few moments. These tasks matter. They build trust and confidence. Failure is expected. When a child drops something, breaks something, forgets something, the response is calm. The mistake is addressed, not the child. Shame has no place here. Survival depends on learning, not on fear. Play blends seamlessly with work. Children chase one another through the village green, then stop abruptly to help gather spilled grain. They build small shelters from sticks, copying the structure of real homes. They play at hunting, farming, cooking, not because they are told to, but because these activities define the world around them. Through play, they test strength, balance, cooperation. They learn limits, how far they can jump, how fast they can run, how hard they can throw. Injuries happen, but they are treated as part of growing, not as catastrophe. Elders watch from a distance, intervening only when needed. They tell stories in the evening, stories that carry lessons wrapped in memory. Tales of cleverness, patience, foolishness, and consequence. Children listen wide-eyed, absorbing values without being instructed directly. Formal teaching emerges only when necessary. A child who shows interest in spinning is taught how to hold the fiber. One curious about plants is brought along on gathering walks. Learning follows interest, not age. This creates deep engagement. When children choose what to learn, they commit fully. Their focus is intense, their questions precise. They are not distracted by subjects they cannot yet use. As they grow older, expectations increase gradually. A teenager is trusted with heavier tasks, longer distances, more complex decisions. This transition is smooth because it has been prepared for all along. There is no sudden leap into adulthood. Responsibility has been accumulating quietly for years. Social learning happens constantly. Children observe how adults resolve conflict, how they share resources, how they show care. They learn what is acceptable not through rules, but through example. Behavior that harms the group is corrected quickly, not harshly. Belonging is the foundation of discipline. A child who feels secure in their place is more likely to act responsibly. Exclusion is rare and deeply unsettling when it occurs, making it a powerful deterrent. As the day moves toward midday, children's energy shifts. Some grow tired and nap in shaded corners or near the hearth. Others continue to explore, curiosity pulling them from one activity to the next. No one forces rest, but it is encouraged when needed. Children are trusted to listen to their bodies. This trust shapes them profoundly. They grow into adults who know when to push and when to pause, when to speak and when to listen. By the time evening comes, children have learned countless lessons without realizing it. How to move safely through the village, how to read moods, how to contribute, how to wait. This kind of education does not produce specialists quickly. It produces capable, adaptable people rooted in their community, aware of their surroundings, confident in their place. And as the sun reaches its highest point, the village slows, preparing for the long pause that allows both young and old to rest and recover. Rest is necessity. When the sun reaches its highest point, the village does not push forward. It pauses. This pause is not announced, not enforced. It happens because bodies recognize it. Muscles warm from hours of movement begin to soften. Breath deepens. The air itself seems heavier, pressing gently against skin and cloth. Midday is not a time for striving. Those who have worked in the fields return slowly, tools balanced with less urgency than before. The knowledge walkers are already back. Baskets emptied and sorted. Craft fires are banked. Bellows quiet. The village draws inward, seeking shade, stillness, and relief. This pause has been learned over generations. Working through the height of the sun drains strength needed for later. Heat dulls attention. Fatigue invites mistakes. So the wise stepped back. Not because they are told to, but because experience has taught them the cost of ignoring the body's signals. People gather where the air is coolest. Under trees, near thick stone walls. Inside homes where light is softened and heat held at bay. The hearth fire is kept low, just enough to maintain warmth without adding burden. Food appears again, but simply. Small portions. Leftovers from morning. Bread broken once more, dipped into broth, revived briefly at the edge of the fire. A handful of dried fruit. Water shared from a single vessel. This is not a feast. It is maintenance. Conversation is minimal. Voices are softer now, words fewer. Laughter, when it comes, is gentle and brief. The world seems to ask for quiet, and the village listens. Some lie down where they are. A man stretches out in the shade of a wall, hat pulled low over his eyes. A woman rests against a tree, head tilted back, eyes closed. Children curl up together, exhaustion overtaking curiosity. Sleep comes easily. It is light, shallow, easily broken. No one expects deep rest at this hour. Even a few minutes of stillness is enough to restore balance. Those who remain awake sit quietly. Hands mend small tears. Fingers braid rope. Knives are sharpened slowly, deliberately. These tasks require little movement, but maintain usefulness. Work continues, but in a gentler form. The midday pause also creates space for thought. Plans are reconsidered. Problems are turned over in the mind. Sometimes solutions arrive simply because there is time to notice them. This quiet thinking is valued, though rarely named. In this stillness, the village breathes as one. The sounds of labor fade, replaced by the hum of insects, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of birds. Time. Set. It feels less like something passing and more like something being held. Elders often remain awake during this pause. They sit in familiar places, watching without appearing to. They notice who is restless, who is troubled, who is slowing more than usual. These observations will shape gentle interventions. Latora's suggestion, an offer of help, a shared story. The pause also marks a boundary between morning and afternoon. What was not done before midday may wait until tomorrow. There is no shame in this. The land will still be there. Tools will still function. People will still need strength. This acceptance of limits is central to survival. As the sun begins its slow descent, the air changes subtly. Heat loosens its grip. Shadows lengthen. A breeze moves through the village, stirring hair and cloth. Bodies respond before minds do. People begin to sit up, stretch, rise. Children wake, blinking, energy returning in uneven bursts. Water is drunk again. Faces are washed. The village does not snap back into motion. It eases forward, carrying the calm of the pause with it. The afternoon will bring more work, but it will be shaped by what remains undone and what now feels possible. Midday has done its work. It has restored, soft, recalibrated. It has reminded everyone that effort without rest leads nowhere worth going. And as the day leans toward evening, the village prepares to speak again, to tell stories, to share moments, to let memory take form. Rest is necessity. When the sun reaches its highest point, the village does not push forward. It pauses. This pause is not announced, not enforced. It happens because bodies recognize it. Muscles warm from hours of movement begin to soften. Breath deepens. The air itself seems heavier, pressing gently against skin and cloth. Midday is not a time for striving. Those who have worked in the fields return slowly, tools balanced with less urgency than before. The knowledge walkers are already back. Baskets emptied and sorted. Craft fires are banked. Bellows quiet. The village draws inward, seeking shade, stillness, and relief. This pause has been learned over generations. Working through the height of the sun drains strength needed for later. Heat dulls attention. Fatigue invites mistakes. So the wise stepped back. Not because they are told to, but because experience has taught them the cost of ignoring the body's signals. People gather where the air is coolest. Under trees, near thick stone walls. Inside homes where light is softened and heat held at bay. The hearth fire is kept low, just enough to maintain warmth without adding burden. Food appears again, but simply. Small portions. Leftovers from morning. Bread broken once more, dipped into broth, revived briefly at the edge of the fire. A handful of dried fruit. Water shared from a single vessel. This is not a feast. It is maintenance. Conversation is minimal. Voices are softer now, words fewer. Laughter, when it comes, is gentle and brief. The world seems to ask for quiet, and the village listens. Some lie down where they are. A man stretches out in the shade of a wall, hat pulled low over his eyes. A woman rests against a tree, head tilted back, eyes closed. Children curl up together, exhaustion overtaking curiosity. Sleep comes, easily. It is light, shallow, easily broken. No one expects deep rest at this hour. Even a few minutes of stillness is enough to restore balance. Those who remain awake sit quietly. Hands mend small tears. Fingers braid rope. Knives are sharpened slowly, deliberately. These tasks require little movement, but maintain usefulness. Work continues, but in a gentler form. The midday pause also creates space for thought. Plans are reconsidered. Problems are turned over in the mind. Sometimes solutions arrive simply because there is time to notice them. This quiet thinking is valued, though rarely named. In this stillness, the village breathes as one. The sounds of labor fade, replaced by the hum of insects, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of birds. Time. Set. It feels less like something passing and more like something being held. Elders often remain awake during this pause. They sit in familiar places, watching without appearing to. They notice who is restless, who is troubled, who is slowing more than usual. These observations will shape gentle interventions. Latora's suggestion, an offer of help, a shared story. The pause also marks a boundary between morning and afternoon. What was not done before midday may wait until tomorrow. There is no shame in this. The land will still be there. Tools will still function. People will still need strength. This acceptance of limits is central to survival. As the sun begins its slow descent, the air changes subtly. Heat loosens its grip. Shadows lengthen. A breeze moves through the village, stirring hair and cloth. Bodies respond before minds do. People begin to sit up, stretch, rise. Children wake, blinking, energy returning in uneven bursts. Water is drunk again. Faces are washed. The village does not snap back into motion. It eases forward, carrying the calm of the pause with it. The afternoon will bring more work, but it will be shaped by what remains undone and what now feels possible. Midday has done its work. It has restored, soft, recalibrated. It has reminded everyone that effort without rest leads nowhere worth going. And as the day leans toward evening, the village prepares to speak again, to tell stories, to share moments, to let memory take form. Happiness without excess. As the stories taper off and the afternoon leans toward evening, the village does not rush to fill the space that follows. Joy arrives quietly. It does not announce itself with spectacle or demand attention. It settles in the small spaces left behind when work loosens its grip. In this world, joy is not something pursued aggressively. It is something allowed. A young man lifts a simple wooden flute, its surface worn smooth by use. He plays a few notes, not a performance, not a call for silence. Just sound, offered gently. The melody is familiar, passed from one player to another, altered slightly each time. People listen without stopping what they are doing. The music drifts across the village, weaving itself into movement. A woman hums softly as she folds cloth. A child sways unconsciously, feet shifting in time. The tune does not need applause. Its purpose is simply to exist. Nearby, children invent games from what is available. A pair of smooth stones become markers in a throwing game. Sticks become swords, then walking staffs, then something else entirely. Rules are made, broken, remade. Laughter rises and falls, never overwhelming the air. Adults watch with relaxed attention. They intervene only when needed, when tempers flare, when energy spills too far. Most of the time, they let children negotiate their own joys and conflicts, knowing that this, too, is learning. Joy here is shared, but not forced. Some sit apart, content in quiet solitude. An elder watches the play of light through leaves. A woman braids ropes slowly, fingers moving with practiced ease. Contentment does not require participation. This acceptance of difference is important. No one is expected to perform happiness. There is room for reflection, for weariness, for silence. Joy does not erase hardship. It rests beside it. Games among adults are simple. Dice, carved from bone. Stones tossed into marked circles. Friendly competitions that end with laughter more often than victory. The stakes are low, the pleasure immediate. Winning matters less than playing. These moments strengthen bonds that work alone cannot. They remind people that they are more than the sum of their labor. Food sometimes becomes part of joy. A bit of honey, saved from earlier. A piece of fruit dried just enough to hold sweetness. These are shared without ceremony, passed hand to hand. No one hoards pleasure. Sharing multiplies it. Animals participate in their own way. A dog bounds through a group of children, tail wagging wildly. Chickens scatter and regroup. Even the village cat, aloof as ever, chooses a warm stone and closes its eyes, absorbing the calm. Joy here is physical. It lives in movement, in sound, in touch. It does not require explanation or validation. It exists because people are together, because the day has allowed space for it. There is also joy in craftsmanship, a finished tool tested and found balanced, a mended garment worn comfortably again. Satisfaction glows briefly, quietly, then fades into readiness for the next task. Pride is felt, not displayed. As the light softens, these simple pleasures take on a different tone. Shadows lengthen colors. Deep, the air cools. The village begins to draw inward again, without anyone needing to say so. Music slows, then stops. Games wind down. Laughter fades into conversation, then into quiet presence. No one laments the end of joy. They know it will return, shaped differently each time. There is trust in its recurrence, born of experience. This relationship with joy is sustainable. It does not burn out. It does not demand constant novelty. It is renewed by rest, by work, by connection. As evening approaches, the village prepares for the return of the hearth as the center of life. The day's energy is gathered, not lost. Simple joys have done their work. They have softened edges, strengthened bonds, reminded everyone that life is more than survival alone. And as the sky deepens toward dusk, the fire calls people back not with urgency, but with promise. The day folds inward as the sun lowers. The village begins to change its shape. What was spread outward across fields, paths, and shaded places now turns back toward the center. Movements become more purposeful again, but not hurried. Evening brings a natural gathering, like threads drawn together by a patient hand. Smoke thickens above the hearths. Fires that were kept low through the heat of the day are fed again. Larger pieces of wood are added carefully, chosen to burn steadily rather than flare. Flames rise, casting warmer light across walls and faces. The hearth calls people home. Animals are brought in or secured for the night. Gates are closed. Tools are cleaned, checked briefly, and stored where they will be found easily in the morning. These rituals are small but essential. Ending the day well ensures that tomorrow begins smoothly. Children return from play with flushed faces and tired limbs. They're quieter now, energy spent unevenly. Some cling to familiar adults. Others sit near the fire, gazing into the flames, mesmerized. Evening softens them, preparing them for rest. Inside the homes, light grows gentler. Firelight replaces sun, changing how everything looks. Edges blur. Shadows deepen. The world feels smaller, more intimate. This contraction is comforting. It signals safety, enclosure, belonging. Conversation shifts with the light. The practical talk of the day plan's observations. Tasks gives way to reflection. People speak more slowly, choosing words with care. Silence stretches longer between phrases, and no one rushes to fill it. The hearth becomes the focal point again. People sit close enough to feel its warmth, far enough to avoid discomfort. This balance is instinctive. Bodhies know where they want to be. Food begins to appear. Pots are set near the fire. Ingredients gathered throughout the day are combined thoughtfully. Herbs from the knowledge walkers, roots cleaned earlier, bits of meat or bone added for richness. The smell grows gradually, filling the space. Cooking is unhurried. Meals prepared at this hour are meant to nourish deeply, to restore what labor has taken. There is time to stir slowly, to taste, to adjust. No one rushes the process. Hunger can wait a little longer. While food cooks, hands find small tasks. Clothes are folded. Tools are inspected once more. A child's hair is braided. These acts are gentle, repetitive, grounding. Outside, the village quiets. Sounds that carried during the day fade. Birds settle. Wind moves through leaves more softly. Darkness gathers at the edges. Respectful, waiting. Those who return later are greeted quietly. A man steps in from the woods, shoulders dusted with leaves. A woman comes back from a neighbor's home. Their arrival completes the circle. Everyone is accounted for. This accounting is not formal, but it is felt. If someone were missing, it would be noticed. Concern would ripple outward, subtle but immediate. Presence matters. As the sky darkens fully, the hearth's importance deepens. Fire is no longer just warmth, it is light, protection, focus. It keeps the night at a manageable distance. Children yawn openly now. They shift closer to familiar bodies. Eyelids heavy, adults notice, adjust voices, lower energy. Evening has its own etiquette, shaped by centuries of shared experience. The village is ready to eat together. Bowls are set out. Bread is broken. Everyone finds a place, whether seated or standing. There is no strict order, but there is curlers first, children guided gently. This meal will close the day, but before it begins, there is a moment brief, unspoken, where everyone pauses, hands still, breath held lightly. Not a prayer necessarily, but an acknowledgement of effort given, of sustenance received, of another day completed. Then eating begins. Closing the day together, supper is not announced, but everyone knows when it has begun. The pot has reached its ready stay, thick, fragrant, alive with the day's gathered offerings. Someone lifts the lid, steam rising slowly, carrying the scent of herbs, roots, and long-simmered bones. The smell does not rush. It settles into the room, warming it in a different way than fire alone can. Bowls are filled without measure. There is no careful division by portion. Each person takes what they need, trusting that there will be enough. Bread is passed hand to hand, torn rather than cut. The act is intimate, connecting each person to the others through shared touch and rhythm. Children eat first, guided gently. A spoon is held patiently. A bite is cooled with breath. No one scolds for mess or slowness. This meal is as much about care as it is about nourishment. As people eat, voices lower. Conversation continues, but it is softer now, shaped by fatigue and contentment. The sharp edges of the day have been smoothed by work, completed and hunger eased. Stories return, briefly small ones. This time, a moment from the field. Something amusing, a child said. A tool that worked better than expected. These are not the long tellies of afternoon. They are fragments, enough to share a connection without stirring the mind too deeply. Laughter, when it comes, is gentle. It rises, then fades quickly, leaving warmth behind. No one seeks to extend it artificially. Evening laughter is like the last glow of sunset, beautiful because it does not last. The fire crackles softly. Its light dances across faces, highlighting expressions that daylight hides. Wrinkles deepen, eyes reflect flame, smiles soften. This light makes everyone look older and younger at the same time. Supper continues at an unhurried pace. People pause between bites. They sip water or weak ale, daily on bike, stretching tired muscles. The body relaxes as nourishment settles. This meal is the emotional center of the day. Here, effort is acknowledged without praise. Needs are met without negotiation. Everyone is present, accounted for, held within the circle of warmth. As bowls empty, they are set aside quietly. No one rushes to clean immediately. Today's time cleanliness matters, but rest matters more in this moment. Children begin to droop visibly. Heads tilt. Eyelids flutter. Small bodies sag against larger ones. Adults notice and adjust, speaking more softly, moving less. A parent lifts a child effortlessly, muscle memory guiding the motion. Another child is wrapped in a blanket, carried to a sleeping place without being fully awakened. These transitions are smooth, practiced. Evening routines are gentle. Faces are wiped. Hands are cleaned with a damp cloth. The day is slowly erased from skin and hair, leaving only warmth and fatigue behind. Elders remain near the fire a little longer. They speak quietly among themselves, or sit in companionable silence. Their presence anchors the space, holding it steady as others drift toward rest. The mood deepens. Supper has done its work, not just feeding bodies, but signaling completion. The day no longer asks for effort. It invites release. Outside, darkness has fully arrived. The village is quiet now, wrapped in shadow and familiarity. Occasional sounds drift in: a distant owl, the rustle of animals settling. These sounds are not alarming. They are part of the night's language. Inside, the fire is tended one last time. A log is adjusted. Ash is drawn carefully to control the burn. The goal is not brightness, but longevity. The fire must last through the night, watched but not fussed over. Voices fade further. Good nights are exchanged without ceremony. A touch on the shoulder, a nod, a shared look. Words are unnecessary. Sleep begins to approach, not suddenly, but like a tide returning. Bodies find their places. Blankets are drawn close. Breathing slows. The village has reached its quietest hour, and in this stillness, the final transition awaits the deep. Shared rest that will carry everyone through the dark until morning returns. The cycle continues. Night does not fall suddenly. It settles, layer by layer, until the village is fully wrapped in darkness. By now, doors are closed, shutters drawn, and the world has grown small, again contained within walls of wood and stone, within the steady reach of the hearth's glow. Inside the homes, people prepare for sleep without ritual or command. There is no sharp division between waking and resting. The transition is gradual, shaped by fading light and slowing breath. One by one, bodies find their places on straw beds, unfolded blankets, near the warmth of others. Sleep here is shared, not out of necessity alone, but out of trust. Bodies pressed close hold warmth more efficiently. The presence of others soothes the mind, quiets the lingering thoughts of the day. Breathing becomes synchronized, rising and falling like a single organism. The fire remains. Its flames are low now, carefully managed. Embers glow beneath ash, holding just enough heat to endure the night. Someone remains aware of it, not fully awake, not fully asleep, ready to stir it if needed. This watchfulness is gentle. It is not born of fear, but of habit. The night has always required attention, and so attention is given without anxiety. The person closest to the hearth shifts occasionally, listening, sensing. Their vigilance is shared by others in lighter moments of waking. Sleep comes in waves. People drift off, wake briefly, then drift again. A child stirs, murmurs, settles. An adult adjusts a blanket. These small movements ripple through the room without breaking the calm. Dreams pass through the space quietly. Some are vivid, shaped by the day's labor and stories. Others are fleeting impressions, gone before morning. Dreams are not dismissed here. They are remembered sometimes, shared occasionally, woven into understanding when needed. Outside, the night lives fully. Wind moves through trees. Animals call to one another. The world beyond the village continues its own rhythms, unconcerned with human rest. And yet, within these walls, there is a sense of safety. This safety is earned. It comes from shared labor, shared food, shared stories. It comes from knowing who lies beside you, from recognizing the sounds of your own home. It comes from the quiet certainty that if something stirs in the dark, you will not face it alone. Fear has little room to grow here, not because danger does not exist, but because isolation does not. Even in sleep, people are held within the fabric of community. Time loses its sharpness at night. Without light, hours blur together. There is no reason to mark them. The body will wake when it is ready, guided by light and sound, not by numbers. As the night deepens, the village becomes almost indistinguishable from the land around it. Smoke no longer rises. Sounds fade. The boundaries between inside and outside soften. For a few hours, everything rests. This rest is not passive. It restores strength, yes, but it also preserves continuity. It ensures that the patterns of the day can repeat, that knowledge can be carried forward, that life can begin again. Somewhere in the darkness, a rooster shifts on its perch. A bird rustles. The fire sighs softly. The cycle holds. Morning will return, as it always does quietly, without announcement. Light will slip through shutters. Embers will be stirred. Bodies will wake together. Nothing about this night is extraordinary. And yet, this ordinariness is what sustained humanity for centuries. Nights like this shared, watched, unafraid allowed days to follow, seasons to turn, stories to continue. As sleep deepens, the village lets go. The world breathes in, and in that breath, the medieval day ends only to begin again. And so, the village sleeps. The fire settles into embers, voices fade into silence, and another day, lived fully and quietly, comes to its end. For centuries, nights like this held the world together, watched, shared, and unafraid. Thank you for resting with Go to Sleep Historian. If sleep has not yet found you, allow your mind to wander back through the story, the hearth, the fields, the gentle rhythm of a world without hurry. Wherever you are listening from, may the past keep you safe through the night. Good night.